What if I told you that one decision completely changed my energy, my health, and even my experience adventures like this? Today, we're hiking through the breathtaking Zion National Park in Utah. As we take in these incredible views, I'm going to share my journey toward a plant-based diet, how it started, the struggles, and the game-changing benefits. Welcome to Nutrition with Guy. There's something about road tripping through these national parks that makes you feel alive in the most incredible way. The open road, endless views, and fresh air is the perfect setting to reflect on change. From the fiery reds of Zion to the frozen wonderland of Bryce Canyon, each landscape tells a different story, just like our own journeys. And mine, it started with food. But before we dive into my plant-based journey, let's hit the trail, because if there's one thing I've learned, is that transformation happens when you take the first step and give plants a chance. Hello guys, I'm Guy. Today we're here in Zion National Park. I'm hiking the canyons, which is the other side of the park, and it's so beautiful out here. It's snowing up in the mountains and it's quite cold right now. I was just in Zion the other day, and I cooked some tacos, which was really good. And now I got to the other part of the park, which is more remote, and it's equally beautiful. Anyways, I want to talk about my journey with plant-based diet and how I got started. So I first got started with plant-based diet and veganism about 15 years ago. I was still in high school, and the ethics teacher, had a video to show us. It was a documentary called The Meat is Weak, and in this documentary was about how the animal farming treats its animals. It was a hard documentary to see because at first was mostly about how animals are treated and how many resources it requires. I remember something along those lines that a pound of beef requires 1,900 gallons of water, and that's the same as filling 39 bathtubs with water, which is crazy. And there was I, living in Brazil, worried about leaving the sink water running for too long. So that gave me an impression, but it didn't change. I think because I was too young. I was just 14 years old. And growing up in Brazil, I ate a lot of meat. Pork sausages, beef, churrasco, which is basically cooked meat on the grill, was really good. I also ate chicken hearts and chicken thighs and chicken breast and so many other cuts of meat, bacon and pork chops. Look at this nice view. Whew, breathtaking. And then after I watched this video, I didn't think much about it, but I think that was in my brain for a while. In about 2015, when I was finishing nutrition school, I took the decision of stop eating red meat. And that was unheard of because in Brazil, you don't see a lot of vegetarians, let alone vegans. And I never thought I could be a vegan. So that was an interesting concept back then. At that time, I wanted to be a reducitarian, which is basically not eating as much animal products. But in Brazil, there's no way to do that because everything is so meat-based, so much dairy and eggs and all that. So when I went to the United States in 2016, I started being a vegetarian. It was just a jump, not too high, to being completely meatless and eating a little bit more eggs and dairy to supplement my proteins. I remember one day I went to the market and I had decided of going vegetarian, and I bought all these nice products. I was still eating dairy, like yogurts and eggs, and I was definitely eating more fruits and vegetables. So as the sign says, I gave plants a chance. In the morning, I was eating my smoothie with blueberries and soy milk, and I was also eating a nice burrito with quinoa, black beans, guacamole. So I was vegetarian for about 2 years, and I felt my life improving in a way. I think my body is not really adaptable to meat. I think it stays too long in my organism. And I fare really well with plants and eggs sometimes, but not as much as plants. So in 2018, I moved to LA. I had a friend in yoga, and she was vegan. And I was telling her that I was a vegetarian for 2 years, and I wanted to become vegan. And she said, well, why don't you become then? I was like, why not? So I went to the market again, and I started buying everything that I could just from plants. I gave up eggs and dairy. At that point, I was just eating small amounts of dairy. I wasn't even eating so many eggs. And sometimes products with added eggs and dairy, but not the dairy in the eggs itself. So I made this nice supermarket run where I could have mostly plant foods. So then I became vegan. And that was nice because I was doing yoga back then. I was working out for 9 years before and lifting weights, and my body was so unleveled, unbalanced, and I had some muscles, but I wasn't feeling really good. So I took yoga, and that felt really nice on my body. It felt so nourishing in a way that's hard to describe. I was stretching and bending, and I was so flexible back then. So being a vegan helped me a lot into getting deeper into my yoga practice. So that was 2018. I was already in shape, but being a vegan helped me to slim down so much. I could see my belly again, my stomach, and I was feeling that my energy levels were so much better. It was like I was running on clean fuel. Of course, I was kind of biased because of the animal industry and all the research that I did, but I wasn't expecting that I would feel so good just on plants. So the pandemic hit. The phrase, It became so cliche these days, but I think a lot of people suffered in different ways with the pandemic. In my way is that I couldn't exercise or even get out to walk. So I gained so much weight. I gained over 50 pounds during the pandemic, and that was really hard on my body. I was working a full-time job as a waiter, busser, barback, and I was on my feet all day, and I also didn't have a car. So I was spending a lot of energy, and all of a sudden that stopped. I was over 200 pounds back then, which is a lot, especially for my body. And I couldn't find a way to go back to the place that I was before. And being vegan, you eat a lot of carbohydrates. There's no way to just eat lean protein because your main sources of protein are legumes. And I was trying to cut all the carbohydrates. So I turned to fish again and eggs. And I wasn't really able to lose much weight back then. But with time, it just got lower and lower and lower. Hard to find a good quality of protein because vegetables have a lot of starch, carbohydrates, and sometimes fats. And to find the same amount of protein like in a tuna, you're gonna eat double of the amount in tofu, for example. So I feel like my goal was mostly never become a vegan. I don't think that was my goal. I went vegan and that was good for myself, but I think veganism is so hard to follow, especially for people that don't have much of knowledge in nutrition. So I think it's so hard to follow that a lot of people fall off and they go back to eating meat. And I think there's a better way to that, which is going plant-based. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching.